So I'm sure you guys have probably heard by now this story of this Ukrainian woman that was attacked on a subway by a random homeless, mentally ill man, however you want to word it. Someone that's been arrested 14 times, 14 different mugshots, was still roaming around the streets and just ended this woman's life out of nowhere. Gone. So the mainstream media has been extremely quiet about this story. And finally, one of the big media companies, Axios, decided to finally come out and talk about it. But instead of talking about the tragedy, which is the story of the woman dying, they just decided to talk about how MAGA is basically fueling a fire and lying about crime and data and all these different things, basically connecting it back to how evil MAGA is. Because that's just what the mainstream media does. So we're going to dive into that in this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment down below, and let's just get started. So they say, first paragraph right here, MAGA influencers are drawing repeated attention to violent attacks to elevate the issue of urban crime and accuse mainstream media of undercovering shocking cases. Yeah, you didn't cover any of this. So yeah, not really shocking. Shocking video of the fatal August 22nd knife attack on 23-year-old Iryna Zarutska on a light rail car in Charlotte, North Carolina dominated weekend conversation on Trump-friendly social media. So X is what they mean. It dominated stuff on X. The big picture. The rising number of surveillance cameras in public spaces, including on Charlotte's light rail, has become a big accelerant in these cases. The video is easily shared or leaked and can instantly pollinate across social media, a visual counterpoint to statistics showing crime decreases. So basically, because there's cameras everywhere, it's creating this illusion that crime is really bad in these cities. And we need to trust the data more than seeing things for our own eyes and seeing things for ourselves. They don't want us knowing how bad it actually is. They just trust the experts. How's that going recently? Trust the experts. President Trump asked about the Charlotte video by a reporter Sunday and said he wanted to find out more about the stabbing before commenting. So I guess he didn't really know about it then. I don't think he said anything about it today as far as I know. Elon Musk repeatedly posted about the Charlotte case this weekend for his 225 million X followers. Also commenting on X, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, Charlie Kirk, Mike Lee, Sean Duffy, basically saying only conservatives are talking about this. So they're trying to put this into a light where they try to say it's more conspiratorial or not as important because conservatives are talking about it. Zarutska recently arrived in Charlotte from Ukraine to escape the war there. She literally escaped a war, flew around across the whole world, and just had her life ended. The suspect, DeCarlos Brown Jr., was charged with first-degree murder. His criminal record includes charges of armed robbery, felony larceny, breaking and entering, and shoplifting. Yeah, they didn't include that. He's been arrested 14 times. He has 14 mugshots that they're not including in this article. Mecklenburg County District Attorney Spencer Merriweather, in an interview with Axios Charlotte last week, didn't comment directly on the case, but acknowledged the limitations and complexities of holding defendants with mental health issues accountable. Wheatley wrote on X that June 2020, Roy Cooper, who is the governor of North Carolina, signed a soft on crime executive order just 3 months later, Brown was released from prison. So basically saying that he was released from prison early back in 2020 due to a soft on crime bill that Roy Cooper, the governor, signed. And it says the executive order established a, quote, racial profiling task force and sought to reduce systematic racism, but it didn't call for the early release of suspects. Cooper accused Wheatley of lying, blah, blah. Between the lines. Influential conservative social media accounts accused major national news outlets of not covering the racial dynamics of the Charlotte killing, a white victim and a black suspect, with the same intensity as they did in the case of Daniel Penny. You guys remember Daniel Penny? The guy who was defending everyone on the subway cart, and liberal media was acting like he was the worst human being to ever live, that they were all calling for him to be in prison for life. And yeah, even though he was doing self-defense and he was acquitted, some people still think he should be rotting in prison. Yeah, they talked plenty about that. Nothing about this, though. Interesting, huh? Republicans have consistently highlighted crime. Democrats have accurately pointed out that violent crime rates have been decreasing since pre-pandemic highs. Let's talk about this decrease in crime that they're talking about. So just in DC, when Trump sent in the National Guard that every liberal has been protesting since he's done that, a month before that, it was determined that the one of the police commanders was literally manipulating statistics to make it seem like crime was lower. He was literally put on suspension so they could investigate it. And the police union themselves said this has been an ongoing issue for a while now. Another thing we've noticed in big cities too, also in DC, there was a man getting arrested currently. He was in handcuffs and interviewers came up to him and he said that cops have brought him into the police station 6 different times for carjacking, sorry. And the DA will not charge him with any crimes. He says he stays in jail for the weekend and he's released and he's not charged with anything. This is another thing these big cities and these corrupt district attorneys do to say crime is down, is they just won't charge people with anything. They'll be brought in by the police. They'll be there for a few hours, maybe a day, and then not charge anything. Another incident in DC was the guy that works for Doge, Big Balls, his nickname or whatever. Big thing was him is he got beaten to a pulp because he was defending a lady from getting carjacked by 3 black teenagers, I believe. None of them got charged with assault, even though he could like barely walk after he was beaten so bad. They all got charged with unarmed carjacking, but not assault. So according to DC, they don't count that as an assault. So then they can say, oh, assault cases are down 20% this year. Yeah, because you're not charging people with assault that are actually doing it. See, these are just a few ways that these cities try to say that crime is down. When in reality, we all know these cities are more dangerous than ever. They're just trying to hide it because they're actually not doing anything about it at all. Because they don't want to, either seem racist or they don't want to hurt their voting base. I don't know which one it is. Could be a little of both. Either way, it just makes life more dangerous for the people that are actually living in these cities, just trying to survive and live their lives and ride on a subway without having to worry about some mentally ill dude sitting behind them and stabbing them in the neck. Like, that's something you shouldn't have to worry about when you're just out living your life. And the great media we have would rather attack MAGA or conservatives for bringing attention to us rather than talking about the actual crime itself, which is absolutely horrible. And the biggest thing I think with this is they're trying to say MAGA's using this to say crime isn't down. They're trying to manipulate you. They're trying to lie, whatever. It doesn't matter what the crime statistics are. If this is something that happened in your local area, you should know about this. You should know what's going on in your subways. Like if you live in Charlotte, North Carolina, especially where this happened, you should know what's going on in your public transportation. Say you want to take the train one day. It could have been 10 years since something happened in the whole city. But if this happens, you need to know about it. Regardless of what the crime data says or crime statistics, this is a dangerous event that happened in the city. People need to be aware of this happening or the possibility of this happening going forward, and needs to know what happens to this guy and people like him similarly. So for them to say, oh, they're being misleading when it comes to crime data. First of all, crime data itself is misleading because they're leaving out a lot of stuff. And 2, this should be known about no matter what the crime data is. And I don't see how them not talking about this, how they think that's going to solve anything. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to, I wouldn't say they're trying to censor this information, but what the mainstream media likes to do is they'll all talk about similar topics, like pretty much all the same things with the exception of Fox News. And they'll all get together, they'll have the same talking points, the same message, the same motives behind everything. So what they basically all have gotten together with this story is they're all just like, we're not going to talk about it. We're just going to pretend like it's not happening. Oh, we're going to talk about Trump getting booed at a tennis match instead, because that's more important to the public than a woman getting assaulted on a subway by some deranged lunatic. Also, you still have the mayor and the governor in Illinois still protesting Trump wanting to send people to Chicago when they literally just had, I think, 6 people had their lives ended there just this past weekend after and there was 13 shootings or something. But Trump getting in there and preventing that from happening would just that'd be overkill, right? That would just be too much. We can't have that. These cities are just really backwards in a lot of ways, and the media is definitely just evil. They can just definitely be so evil. There's no reason why they have to take something like this and be like, oh, well, this is really MAGA trying to lie about crime statistics to scare people. Like, no, stuff like this needs to be known about. And there's nothing wrong with talking about this, regardless of what the crime statistics say. You're just going to make it worse for yourself by hiding it. So that's pretty much it. It's crazy how the media has been handling this, or I guess lack thereof. Axios is the only one, as the timing of this video, that has even addressed anything to do with this. And they basically turned it on MAGA and saying it's MAGA's fault that this is as big as it is. It's MAGA's fault that this is getting blown out of proportion, or however they wanted to word it in here. And, you know, they're trying to push their narrative to say that crime is still down in all these cities, which we all know they're not. I was just in Baltimore last weekend. They say crime's down. It's still a dangerous, crappy place to be. These cities aren't getting any better. They're just ignoring the issue and pretending like it is, and manipulating the public into thinking it is. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation. Comment down below, like this video, subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.